Devin Rose here, Lionheart Catholic. Wanted to share an update in this pandemic crisis with some things you can do health-wise, financially, preparedness, and just kind of mindset here as we endure this. First thing I want to share is really great video here by George Gammon. I've been watching his videos for a while. This one is Economic Collapse. Can the Fed reinflate the everything bubble? He's got a really great sense of humor, and he distills down these concepts and makes them where you can understand them. It looks kind of complicated on this whiteboard, but he goes through and describes what happened in 2008 in the great financial crash, and then what's happened since, where we've just puffed up a bubble even more, and then finally where we're at now in 2020 with the crisis that's happening and what the Fed is attempting to do. And basically, when the Fed tried to normalize things by raising interest rates, crash, couldn't do it. Tried to do that again in between, say, 2011 and 2018, couldn't do it. Market started to crash. And he explains why that is. And so now what we have is an incredibly fragile financial system. It's fragile because it's all based on this huge exploding debt bubbles, okay, of corporate debt, consumer debt, sovereign debt, government debt. And we're now caught where the Fed is doing everything that it can to try to backstop and buy all things that are possible, and yet it's not working. And he goes through this. It's a fascinating look. Now, I'll give you the short answer that he gets to at the end. Can the Fed basically backstop everything, reinflate the everything bubble so that your house keeps going up and your stock market goes up and you don't lose value on your savings and your dollars, et cetera, right? He says possibly is his answer, but probably not. In other words, the system's getting so fragile and tightly wound that even the Fed, with all its power, is not going to be able to get out of this. We'll see. So I highly recommend this video by George Gammon. Just so informative and helpful to see. And he kind of goes through the 3 stages here of what's happening. Even including what's happening in housing and what could happen with it. All right, so this is kind of funny. Today there were what's not funny is there were over 6 million new jobless claims. And what is the response? It was estimated there would be about 5 million. So even more jobless claims. Now it's up over 16 million in the past 3 weeks. And the stock market rallies. So the stock market, as we've seen, is doing whatever it doesn't. How it's pricing in the uncertainty, how it's pricing in the bad news versus good news, almost totally random. It's almost like a casino. It's the Wall Street casino, and I'm just watching it. I'm just watching and seeing what happens. I don't trust it. I don't trust what's behind it. The aftershocks of what we're going through, what we're still going through, right? It's like there was an earthquake in the ocean in the middle of the Pacific, and now there's waves building up, and those waves are still building up, and they haven't all hit the shore yet. The biggest ones haven't hit the shore, and yet the market goes up. So I don't trust that, and I'm being extremely careful because I don't want to lose my shirt, and I'm not trying to do any sort of trading or anything like that. What can you do during this pandemic? I can't control the stock market. I can't control what the Fed does, what they do to my savings or my job. What I can control is what I do, and that's learn. And people who are telling you right now to learn, listen to those people, and I'm one of them. Learn about how to play the guitar, learn about gardening, learn about economics, learn about money and currency, learn about how to be a better father and husband and relationships and the 5 love languages. Learn about your faith. I, of course, am Catholic and think you should be Catholic too, because I think the Catholic Church is true and that all people should be Catholic. Learn about it. Take the challenge on that. You say, well, how do I know that? Well, here, if you're Protestant, I wrote a book. It's called The Protestant's Dilemma. How the Reformation's shocking consequences point to the truth of Catholicism. Look at that. Church falling off a cliff. Oh, that's provocative. We'll learn about it. All right. If you're already Catholic, you should get my book, Lionheart Catholic, How to Become a Saint in These Dark Times. Right here at lionheartcatholic.com, get the free book. It's you have to pay for it. It's $7.95, but that's the cost of printing and shipping it to you. So I sell it at cost. You want this book? It's a great book. I put my life into this book, 20 years of learning from the saints and what will help you. So read and learn. Exercise. Get out there and exercise. Start doing intermittent fasting, right? Improve yourself in all ways. Pray. Start doing mental prayer if you've not already. These are all things that you can begin doing. Plant a garden. Start doing something where you can actually help to control the things that are outside of control, meaning like groceries are hard to get. You know what? Learn how to plant a garden and grow things. We're growing right now corn, peas, squash, beans, potatoes, carrots. We got a whole bunch of stuff that we're growing. I also recommend that you get data from multiple sources. What do I mean by that? Well, what I mean by that is don't just take your data from, CNN or CNBC or Fox News or whatever the mainstream is. Get data from other sources too and find out what's happening. Find out what's happening with the pandemic, with the response to it, etc. We're facing something now that's very strange, and that's the political powers have been able to amp up. Hey, we got to make you stay, at your home, and that's a very powerful thing for them to have authority to do. And certain things that were unthinkable even 2 months ago, let's say universal basic income, now under a emergency don't seem so distasteful to a lot of people. And what if the government gives you money every month, $1,000 a month? What's funny is the Democrat presidential candidate who since dropped out, Andrew Yang. What I liked about Andrew Yang was he was into StarCraft and into cryptocurrency. What I was not excited about with him, he's also into universal basic income. I'm totally against it. I think it's a terrible idea. But if you're not educating yourself, you're going to start to think things like, yeah, well, the government, they should pay for pay for everything, right? Why not? They have all the money, so-called, right? Really, it's just socializing debt, and it's punishing savers, and it's not making you richer. There was actually a thing that was about millennials, Gen X, Boomer vote for socialist candidate. It was the percentage of people who would vote. Yeah, here it's like a YouGov. 7 of 10 say they would vote for a socialist candidate. Now, those of us who actually grew up and faced socialism, say under Soviet Union, yeah, here it is. So, of course, silent boomers, Gen X. I'm a Gen Xer. They favor capitalism over a socialist. I'm even surprised with this Gen X number. Come on, Gen Xers. But now you go to millennials and Generation Z, way more favorable towards socialists. They don't know what they're doing. They don't know what they're talking about. They think these are all new and exciting ideas. They're not new. They're not exciting. They're terrible. But reality is these are the next 2 generations. Matter of fact, where's that book? I got this book for Christmas, The Fourth Turning. This was written about 22 years ago, so late 90s. And this well-known book, these guys, William Strauss and Neil Howe, have a theory of generational cycles that go in stages of four. So silent to millennial, that's a four sort of epoch, generation of generations, and that there's archetypes that each of these generations go under. And pretty interesting. And to their credit, they predicted there would be a crisis as millennials entered their adulthood sometime in 2015 to 2025. Well, we're facing a huge crisis now. Isn't that interesting? One that could reshape the world, reshape attitudes, could be a huge global financial reset of some kind if this whole thing crashes or hyperinflates or deflates, whatever it might do. So this is really fascinating to be aware of and learn about. There's going to be opportunities during this crisis and coming out of it. And it's important to recognize that it's not selfish to look for opportunities in a crisis or after a crisis, not to take advantage of someone, not to hurt someone, but rather to simply be prepared for what opportunities there could be. And that then helps if you have resources available to deploy, and whether that's cash or whether it's skills. Look to what could happen and as attitudes change and behaviors change going forward. And I'm trying to think about that as well, for myself. So we're living in obviously a very difficult time and a scary time. Stay close to God, be in friendship with God. We use livemass.net, and they actually have Latin masses live streamed. That's what we've been doing when we can't go to mass. We get to assist at a holy mass, traditional Latin mass, very reverent. Hard to get to a Latin mass in our area, even when there's not a pandemic. But you can check out their whole schedule, and the Holy Triduum's about to begin here. And here they go. They got 10 embrace services, Holy Thursday. Probably won't be able to have 12 men whose feet can be washed. Good Friday, veneration of the cross. We're going to be doing that in our family. So you're my prayers, Devin Rose, Lionheart Catholic. Lionheart Catholics transform the world by becoming saints. If that's what you're about, take the Lionheart Catholic quiz below. God bless.